Ideas is composed of true stories, monologues, and poems submitted from people throughout the New England area.
Wednesday, May 18, 2016. At approximately 0100 hours while on routine, patrol car 333 patrols Sheridan observed an unidentified male subject wandering in and out of the intersection in the vicinity of Broad Street and Montgomery Avenue. In an attempt to check on the well-being of the subject, the officer asked the suspect who he was and where he was going, to which the suspect stated, "I don't gotta tell you shit." It was at this point, Patrolman Sheridan stepped out of the vehicle and again asked the suspect where he was going. This time the suspect pointed over the shoulder of Patrolman Sheridan and stated, "Over there." When asked what the exact address was, the unidentified male again stated, "I ain't gotta tell you shit." It was at this point, police asked the suspect to have a seat in the rear of the marked cruiser while police figured out where he was going. It was at this point, the unidentified male shoved the arm of Patrolman Sheridan and attempted to overpower Patrolman Sheridan. At this point, police took the suspect by the arm and wrist and detained him in the rear of the marked cruiser. Suspect began to scream, "Please don't shoot me! God, please don't shoot me! The white cop was going to shoot me!" As additional police units arrived on the scene, the suspect continued to exclaim that he was going to be beaten and killed by white cops. It should be noted that during this encounter, in an attempt to gain control, the unidentified male subject dented the rear passenger door of the marked cruiser, causing minor damage. The suspect was then transported to Central Station, where he was held for the next session of 6th District Court. The suspect was charged with simple assault, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct. In addition to these charges, the suspect was advised in his cell block that if he did not give police his personal information, he could face an additional obstruction charge, to which the suspect stated he did not care. Patrol car 325, Sergeant Salido, was also notified.
Being successful blacks doesn't matter. And the dozens of times I've been stopped by Providence police, they never ask me my education, my job, my income, etc. They fuck with us based on what they see. Black skin. And you let them off with their racist bullshit every time you try to find some outfitting. It doesn't matter our professional accolades or accomplishments. We could all be homeless, mop floors at Wendy's, we could be brain surgeons. We shouldn't be treated, harassed, for existing the way that we have and always will in this country.
We got pulled over by Stadies and Proud, supposedly for the light being out on our license plate, aka being in a car full of black males. Our driver did not have a single sip of alcohol and was driving perfectly fine. The officers asked for IDs and most of us gave it to him without any hesitation, but one of us refused. He argued that as a passenger, he didn't have to. We tried to convince him to do it, so that he didn't give the police a reason to do anything, but he still refused. Well, they let us go without a ticket.
Yeah.
But after, we had an intense convo about the situation. We discuss why, as black males, being fully aware of what our rights are, we fear the cops to the point we comply. We discuss why some of us pressured our friend who did not give up his ID, claiming we just want to go home. We didn't want to fight this fight. I didn't want to be a martyr. Now, despite being someone who in most cases stands up for my rights, I was scared. I know plenty of innocent black men who have been provoked, humiliated, arrested, detained by cops. I did not want to be another hashtag. I shouldn't have to feel this way. Millions of us should not have to feel this way. As a black man, I am forced to live in a constant state of tension between doing what I need to do to survive in a world that's set up for me to fail and holding people in this country accountable for their values and their beliefs. Parts of me feels like I chickened out and I wasn't brave enough. But other parts just wanted to make sure we were safe and able to go home.
They say if it's not on Facebook, it didn't happen. Even though I'm not seeing it, I'm pretty sure it's happening.
We keep saying never again until the next hashtag digitally memorializes the next black name slain by blue bullets.
I can't watch another video. We shouldn't have to hashtag another father.
Hashtag daughter.
Hashtag loved one.
They don't get it. They say things like, what was he doing for the police to shoot him?
Hashtag Amadou Diallo.
Why was she so mouthy?
Hashtag Sandra Bland. Black on black crime starts so young. Hashtag Tamir Rice. Just walk away with the police and you won't have a problem.
Hashtag Tanisha Anderson.
Hashtag Marion Carey.
It used to be every 28 hours, but now you can barely wait a full day.
And I shouldn't have to see another video just to prove that it's happening.
Hashtag Omar Edwards.
Hashtag Howard Morgan.
Hashtag Philandro Castile.
There is nothing we can do to change being born with black skin in America.
Hashtag Trayvon Martin.
Our terrorists don't pray to a foreign god 5 times a day. Hashtag Omar Edwards.
Hashtag Howard Morgan. We don't see something, say something every time someone speaks Arabic at an airport.
Hashtag white terrorists kill more than Muslim terrorists in the U.S. Our terrorists don't believe 40 virgins wait for them in heaven for every black life taken.
Hashtag cops kill more than both.
Amazing grace. Never Again to us is just like Amazing Grace, a song written by a slave trader we try to find solace in by reclaiming for ourselves, but that has much usefulness is Nazi forgiveness during the Jewish Holocaust. The holy cost of equality is so sacred, like forgiveness. It is only given to brothers, and fathers, and sons who serve and protect blue lives, white covenant.
But I have a daughter. Aren't I a father too? Am I not May Dorothy's son, Michelle and Nicole's brother? Do I not deserve forgiveness for living while black in a country where it's almost illegal for me to breathe?
When a baby is choking, they tell the baby, put your hands up over your head to open the airways so the baby can breathe. I wonder if Eric Garner's mom told him, just put your hands up, baby, and breathe before he breathed his last.
It's like they're trying to kill us. Please don't shoot me!
Hashtag Daniel Shaver.
Any attempt to defend ourselves is an act of war. I'm not resisting!
Hashtag Freddie Gray.
It's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's on YouTube. You can Google it. I want to call this police porn
They
snufflix.
have to be getting off on this.
They must have a running bet.
Who can have the best amateur video taken?
Winner gets.
GoFundMe's in the defense fund ranging in hundreds of thousands of rewards.
After the shooting of 7 Dallas police officers, ex-Representative Joe Walsh declared war on President Obama and the Black Lives Matter movement.
Dear ex-Congressman, there are no hashtags to fill those officers' names.
No makeshift memorials where those officers were slain. No digital media press play icons for us to view over and over and over.
Desensitizing Americans to gun violence against police, like it is for gun violence perpetrated by police killing unarmed Americans.
If this is war, then the constant and continued murder of people of color is a Holocaust. Redlining practices chunked out African-American concentration camps, and instead of sewing stars on lapels, we just simply had to be born.
No gas showers or brick oven human roasting rooms, just brass-encased hot lead handcuffed baths in asphalt and concrete flood pools. Hashtag Michael Brown. Hashtag Oscar Grant.
Dear America, if I am pro something, I'm not against something else.
And I shouldn't have to choose between the police and the people the police are sworn to protect. And this is not a black problem. This is an American problem. And I don't want a hashtag in front of my name just because of my skin color.
And don't tell me that.
All lives matter.
Because if all lives matter, then
Black Lives Matter would not exist.
It's important, therefore, to know who the real enemy is and to know the function, the very serious function of racism, which is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language and so you spend 20 years proving that you do. Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says that you have no art so you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no pendants so you dredge that up. None of that is necessary. There will always be one more thing.
Don't do it. I'm Italian, Cape Verdean, and Portuguese. Not white enough to be white, not black enough to be black. Raised in a time when you were either one or the other. In a neighborhood where blacks weren't allowed to walk down the street. I was teased and taunted. The North End, Charles Street in Providence. When I was 16, the police fractured my leg in 3 places, calling me a spick as they beat me. When I speak of that day, the first question people ask is, well, what did you do that made them beat you up? I truly, honestly did nothing. I was non-white, stepping off a Greyhound bus at the Bonanza bus station coming from Massachusetts. But these are things that white people just don't understand. One summer when I was 20, I was detained by police because I was super tan. And I gave the cop my license and he didn't believe it was a real ID. He asked me how I got my Italian last name. 2 weeks ago, a friend and I did a paid study. She's Black American. We both walked into a bank, stood in line. I got a Hispanic teller who cashed my check without a problem. She got a white teller who asked her a million questions about where she got the check. This is everyday life. The treatment is always different. Black people are always the suspect. We have to continue and stand up and say that this is not okay, even if it's just people being silent in the mistreatment of black people. Silence is consent.
My skin is black. My arms are long. My hair is woolly. My back is strong. Strong enough to take the pain inflicted again and again. What do they call me? My name is Aunt Sarah.
On May 18th, I decided to go see a local band in Providence. I used public transportation. I had a great evening with friends, and we're home about 11 p.m. Luckily, the bus line, the last stop, is right at the top of my block, so I Exited the bus, took the 5-house walk home. A police car drove past me, did a U-turn, came back, stopped in front of me, and the police officer asked me my name. In 1938, Rhode Island passed the United States. A peace officer may detain a suspect who he or she feels is committed, has committed, or about to commit a crime, and may command them their name. Because of the peculiar term this police officer made, plus the present state of community-police relations, I was on guard. So I asked the police officer, "Why do you want my name?" He firmly stated his request again. I told him, "If you do not give me a reason for the stop, I will have to give you my name." He exited the car, blocked my path to my house. I tried to get around him, but he grabbed me. So I turned to him. I asked him, I said, "Are you a public servant and am I being detained?" His reply was, "Why you gotta go and do that?" He grabbed me by the shoulders and threw me against the car. I turned to him, I said, "Look, I know you're a police officer. I know you can shoot me without having any recourse. I have a daughter. I want to live." He opened up the car door and told me to get in. I got in. No handcuffs, no pat down, no rights. To make a long story short, I spent the night in the clinic. You might wonder why I wouldn't give the police officer my name. You might think that maybe I was committing a crime or had something to hide. You might even say that I don't respect the police. But the questions I have, why does this not happen in predominantly white neighborhoods? If I was white, would the police officer have done a U-turn just to ask me my name? Would he have put his hands on me without giving me any reason?
Creator, I pray that one day my mother won't have to worry herself gray over my being safe. I pray that blue uniforms and black face performing their skills cause isolated incidents. Now touring America like an epidemic would stop trying to catch me. For the
Creator, I pray that
because everyone knows that
one day my mother won't have to worry herself gray over my being safe.
is always the
I pray that blue uniforms and blackface performing their skits called isolated incidents now touring America like an epidemic would stop trying to cast me for the lead role, because everyone knows no matter the movie or show, the black man is always the first to go.
a word.
And Creator, I pray that whatever sickness has stricken the minds of policemen, we can clone a generic prescription, because I am tired of fitting the description. And Creator, I pray that we could go back to defining freeze as the term word used for below 32 degrees, as opposed to the word used to commit another black man to his family's memory. A word so cold upon hearing it, black men know that their lives are in jeopardy. And Creator, I pray that we can disarm this heavy-down weaponry dismantling black families across the country. Overseers' mentals change to the idea that black man is equivalent to thief, slave, nigger, and drug dealer. Creator, I pray that despite my black skin, keep me safe. I pray that my mother never has to say, "Why did you take my baby away?" Most of all, I pray to never have to pray this poem again.
Stay with me. We got pulled over for a busted tail light in the back. And the police he's covered. He ain't killed my boyfriend. He's licensed, he's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm. We're waiting for that. I will, sir, no worries, I will. He just shot his arm off. We got pulled over on Larpener.
Told Dr. Reed's friend, told him to get his hand off.
You told him to get his ID, sir, his driver's license. Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead. Stay with me. We got pulled over for a busted tail light in the back. And the police just, he's covered. He ain't killed my boyfriend. He's licensed, he's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm. We're waiting for a veteran. I will, sir, no worries, I will. He just shot his arm off. We got pulled over on Larpener.
Told Dr. Reed's friend. Told him to get his hand off.
You told him to get his ID, sir, his driver's license. Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead. Stay with me. We got pulled over for a busted tail light in the back. And the police just, he's covered. He ain't killed my boyfriend. He's licensed, he's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm. We're waiting for a veteran. I will, sir, no worries, I will. He just shot his arm off. We got pulled over on Larpener.
Told Dr. Reed's friend. Told him to get his hand off.
You told him to get his ID, sir, his driver's license. Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
I started to cry July 7th, the day after police officers killed Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, two African-American men in separate incidents in Louisiana and Minnesota. Listening to NPR in my car, my emotions poured forth as I heard Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Mills, question on our own Facebook broadcast why this officer would kill this family man, a partner, dedicated school employee, a father. I calmed down and began to reflect upon my own white privilege and decided to speak up and more widely share my thoughts from May 21st, 2016, the day I was pulled over by the Brookline Police Department. Got pulled over in Brookline by an African-American officer. I was driving without my lights on at night. I was at fault. He just wanted to make sure that I wasn't drunk, and thankfully I was not. Now, during this entire encounter, he treated me respectfully. He asked me for my license and my registration, and he sensed I was uncomfortable. I mean, tickets are expensive. Cops have power, guns. He assured me I had nothing to be nervous about. He offered to look up my registration for me when I couldn't find it immediately. So he walked away to his car, came back a few minutes later, issued me a written warning. Told me to turn on my lights. I explained to him that one of them was broken, but I'd be getting it fixed immediately. He looked at my lights, told me to be safe, and sent me on my way. Now immediately I thought, what if the situation had been reversed and if the officer were white and the driver were African American? Would that officer have been as respectful? Would that driver have felt not just a sense of nervousness, but terror or fear of bodily harm, as the brilliant intellectual Ta-Nehisi Coates so cogently explains in his 2015 masterpiece, Between the World and Me? I know these are not rhetorical questions. In my head, I think of Sandra Bland. I hear her name. I see her face. I think of close friends, men of color, who have told me countless stories of being terrorized by the police. Earlier today, I reread the account of Rutgers professor Imani Perry and her unjust arrest. I hear her name. I see her face. I recount feeling outraged as I witnessed Black and brown youth from a program I launched in Boston South End being interrogated by police, pressed up against a church wall to see if they belong in their own neighborhood. I hear their names. I see their faces. I think about how our jails are full of people of color who are there because they can't afford to pay tickets. There's too many faces to see, too many names to hear. I think of how mass incarceration is a racist system. Tickets and fines are disproportionately handed out to people of color as a means for municipalities to raise money. When these people can't afford to pay their tickets, many times they find themselves in private prisons. I think of Ferguson. I hear their names, see their faces. I'm filled with deep empathy. And as I reflect upon my own white privilege, I also denounce white supremacy. With my cousins. I got my eyes on a die-cast replica 44 Magnum. Jonathan says it's too big, but I break off the plastic brackets and shove it down my pants. Play it cool, pass the register, and out the front door. Once we clear the plaza, we load up our weapons and point it at the sky. Pop! At each other. Pop! Pop! At cars passing by. Pop! 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 Two!
Pop that shit!
Davey and I are creeping through Lonsdale Plaza. We are sweeping through the cars. It's 2 a.m. We're going to go see Davey's girlfriend. And all of a sudden we hear, "Stop! You're under arrest!" I look at Davey. He looks at me. We both see the same thing. An overweight cop in his 40s about 20 meters away. So without even thinking if he's going to pull his weapon, we bolt down the street, through the garage, over the fence, into the beyond. Three!
Right after Jonathan's 16th birthday party, Chris is racing through the gears. His parents are out of town and we just stolen their car. Nobody wants to troop through Fairmount Project with weed and a case of beer. In an attempt to get rid of the evidence, Daniel tosses the case of beer out of the window. Instead of it just missing the breakdown lane and landing softly on the grass, the wind picks it up, smashes on the street, right in front of the police car has been chasing us for the past 3 blocks. Well, eventually we pull over. The police approach the vehicle with Glocks drawn, immediately lowering their weapons upon seeing the white teenagers in the car. They take us to the Woonsocket Police Department where we wait for about an hour, and then my Uncle David comes in and bails us out. No shots, no court, no charges. 4! So, 20 years old, we pull into the police department. The police officer says, "They're not
on too tightly and my wrist was starting to bleed. I tried to get your attention, but you ignored me. He says, "What are you, stupid? What are you trying to get yourself killed? People die for things like that." 5!
Right after Cam's arrest for not moving fast enough, everybody starts screaming and the police form a line. Our friend Vadik asks, "Where's Cam going? Why is he being arrested?" Cam is black, so is Vadik. Most of the police here are white. Vadik repeats his question. Immediately, he's slammed on the sidewalk. 3 police pile on top of him. People pull out their phones. I look at the 50 people or so who are filming it and think, that's not enough. So I slide through an opening in the line and sit a few feet from where Vadik is being arrested. Well, the cops rush around. They take him away. I'm certain to be next, but it's like they're avoiding me, like a pothole or a pristine white flower trapped in a glass case.
Now, if we was to revisit any one of these 5 true stories that I just told, the only difference being my skin color was black or brown instead of white, would I be alive today? Would we be alive today? We must revisit our stories, we must revisit skin, we must revisit one. Tamir Rice is 12 years old, playing in Cleveland Park with a toy plastic pistol. A white neighbor calls the police and says that there's a young black man with a gun in the park. The police pull up. Entering 3 shots hits Tamir Rice's body before the car even comes to a halt. Pop! Revisit skin 2!
John Crawford is 22 years old and speaking on his cell phone outside of a Walmart. He absentmindedly picks up a BB gun while shopping. Well, a white customer calls 911 to report an angry black man is waving a rifle. White officers rush on the scene. They ambush Crawford in an aisle and fire shots into his back and chest before he even has a second to hang up the phone.
Pop! Pop! Revisit skin 3. Walter Scott is not racing through the gears. He is not emptying cases of beer from the back seat of a window. He is pulled over for what is to be said, an unworking third brake light. Soon an argument ensues, and Walter Scott takes off running. Even though he is unarmed, the police officer lets off 8 shots in Scott's direction. Pop! 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 3 of the shots hit their mark, and Walter Scott dies, face down in the grass. Revisit skin 4.
Sandra Bland is pulled over by white officers for changing lanes without using a turn signal. She is then arrested for failing to extinguish a cigarette in her own car. When Sandra protests the legality of her arrest, she is violently thrown to the concrete and taken into custody. Sandra, unfortunately, did not have Uncle David who went to high school with the police in this precinct like I did. And 72 hours later, she's found dead in his cell.
Pop! 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 Revisit skin 5. Ramsey Order recorded live cell phone footage of his friend and neighbor Eric Gardner being choked to death by white Staten Island police. Since then, the coroner ordered the death a homicide. Ramsey Order has been arrested, surveilled, and constantly harassed. In the process, his mother and brother have been arrested and harassed. His family now lives in fear because Ramsey Order decided to show unedited live cell phone footage of how Staten Island police officers conducted themselves that day.
Now, if Ramsey had pushed past police and interfered with the assault on Garner as I did with my friend was being arrested, would he be alive today?
I don't believe that there is a spike in police violence.
In fact, the only difference between 50 years ago and today is
everyone has camera phones and access to the internet.
Back in 1995, I had a baby. I had just turned 20 and was kind of a scared kid, really. I wound up marrying her father because, well, I'm not sure. My father hated him. My ex-husband was an alcoholic, 10 years my senior, in and out of jail for the stupidest things. He was abusive. Many, many times we had the police on our doorstep. One of those times, I was in front of his dad's house in Warwick, and I had hunted him down with my mom in the car and my baby in the back seat, who was 2 at the time. He hadn't come home for over a week, and his father was, of course, hiding him out. As his sister is standing at the window of my car, lying, telling me he wasn't there, he comes running down the driveway, pushes her out of the way, and starts punching me through the window in the face. I grabbed one of my mom's metal crutches and held it lengthwise so to block his blows. He grabbed the crutch out of my hand, starts walking around the car, smashing the car, came to the window where the baby was sitting, smashed through the window, missing her head by maybe a quarter of an inch. I got out of the car to stop him from hurting her, and he turned the crutch on me. The police were called, and one of the officers who showed up asked if I wanted an ambulance, which I didn't at the time, but when I got back in the vehicle, my mom drove me directly to the hospital. I was bloodied and battered, and we didn't know if the baby was hurt at all. So while I was getting x-rayed, the police showed up. They knew I was there. My husband's father worked for the city and had some pull within the local PD. So the sergeant that showed up to the house that day was an old friend of his. Apparently, they had decided to arrest me for felonious assault, taking false statements from the sister, saying I hit him with the crutch.
Love that shit.
You get the picture.
Been there.
So when I got out of X-ray, my mom, who's frantic, meets me halfway down the hall and tells me to call my sister quickly because they were arresting me and she was afraid they wouldn't release the baby to her because she was disabled. So I ran to the payphone. And as I'm at the payphone, I can hear two people arguing. "There's no way in hell I'm doing this," said one voice. "I'm your superior officer, and you cannot disobey a direct order without risking your job, son. So unless you want to be dismissed for insubordination, I suggest you follow command." It was a cop and that sergeant arguing about arresting me. So it was 2 a.m. by the time I was released. And that cop, he had to stay with me because I was under arrest and he needed to transport me to central booking. But on the way there, he never put me in cuffs. He let me ride in the front seat. He told me that when we got there, he was going to call a lawyer friend of his to get me out that night. Because of the time, I would have to be arraigned in the morning, but he wasn't going to make me stay there a second longer than necessary. So we got there, and he called his friend to arrange for a judge to come down. And it would cost $100, but he let me place several phone calls to collect the money. I was arraigned, charged, and released on personal reconnaissance. Now, my husband's father got him a top-notch lawyer, and I had nothing. The court then ruled to assign me a private attorney instead of a public defender because there would be a conflict of interest since the defender's office had previously represented my husband in a domestic case with me. One day that lawyer called me and tells me he thinks it's going to be dismissed because apparently the cop that arrested me went door to door in the neighborhood to see if he could find any witnesses. And he found a group of 10 and 11-year-old kids who were playing stickball and saw the whole thing. He convinced the kids' parents to let them testify on my behalf, and he also vowed to testify on my behalf. So the day of my court date, I show up, and there they are, 5 kids and the cop. And the cop takes the stand, and he stated that he did not want to arrest me, that he was forced to, that he knew they were lying, and that I was being railroaded. The kids never even needed to be called. The charges were dismissed. The father and the sister were charged with perjury. My ex went to jail again, and I have no idea what ever became of that sergeant. The sad thing is, I would see the cop patrolling the local beach, and he would ask if I was still married to him. I was, sadly. It took me 6 years to get out of it. I was only year 2. His name was Jeff. He made me cry that day.
New and Dangerous Ideas is composed of true stories, poems, and monologues from people submitted from throughout the New England area.
Creator, I pray that one day my mother won't have to worry herself over my being
It's not my job to teach white people about racism.
Revisit Skin 1.
It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being.
I hear their names. I see their faces.
It's not my job to teach white people about racism.
I pray that blue uniforms and black faces.
Revisit Skin 2.
Somebody says you have no language, and so you spend 20 years proving that you do.
Revisit Skin 3. Pop, pop,
It's
pop.
not my job
The one this is called isolated incident.
Somebody says your head isn't shaped
to
properly,
teach white people
so you have scientists working on the fact that it is.
about racism.
Pop, pop. Revisit Skin 4.
Stop trying to cast me for the lead role.
Because everyone knows that no matter the movie or show, the black man is always the first to go.
Somebody says that you have no art, so you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no penguins, so you dredge
It's
that up.
not my job to teach white people about racism. It's not my job to teach white people about racism.
Revisit Skin 5.
None of that is necessary. There will always be one more thing.
Why'd you take my baby away? Wednesday, May 18, 2016, while on routine, patrol car 333, Patrolman Sheridan observed an unidentified male subject wandering in and out of the vicinity of Broad Street.
On May 18th, I decided to go see a local band in Providence. I used public transportation. I had a great evening with friends and decided to go home about 11 p.m. So luckily, the bus stop lands right at the top of my block. So I exited the bus, took a 5-house walk home. A police officer drove past me, did a U-turn, stopped in front of me. The police officer asked me my
In
name.
an attempt to check on the well-being of the subject, the officer asked the suspect who he was and where he was going, to which the suspect stated, "I ain't gotta tell you
Shit! See, in 1938, Rhode Island passed a law, a bill saying that a police officer may detain a person whom he or she feels is committing, has committed, or about to commit a crime, and may demand of them their name. Well, because of the peculiar U-turn that the police officer made, and the present state of the climate of police community relations, I was on guard. So I asked the police officer, "Why do you want my name?" His reply, he just said it in front of me again. So then I asked him, I told him, I said, "If you do not give me a reason for the stop, I do not have to give you my name."
The police asked the suspect again where he was going. This time the suspect pointed over the patrolman's shoulder and stated, "Over there." When police asked what the exact address was, the unidentified male again stated,
"I ain't gotta tell you shit." See, then the police officer got out the car, blocked my path to my way home. So I tried to get around him. He grabbed me. So I turned to him and I asked him, I said, "Are you a public servant? And am I being detained?" His reply, "Why you gotta go and do that?" He grabbed me by the shoulders and threw me against the car.
It was at this point, police asked the suspect to have a seat in the rear of the marked cruiser. It was at this point the suspect shoved the arm of Patrolman Sheridan and attempted to overpower Patrolman Sheridan. Police simply took the suspect by the arm and wrist and detained him in the act of it.
No, so I turned to him and I told him, I said, "I know you're a police officer. I know I have a life. I know you can kill me and get rid of it and have no crime. I have a daughter. I want to live." So then he opened up the car door, told me to get in. I got in. No handcuffs, no pat down, no rights. To make a long story short, I split the night in the clink.
It was at this point the suspect started to shout,
"Please don't shoot me! God, please don't shoot me! The white cop is gonna shoot me!"
As additional police units arrived on the scene, the suspect continued to exclaim that he was going to be beaten up and killed by white cops. It should be noted that during this encounter, while attempting to gain control, the unidentified male dented the rear passenger door of the marked cruiser, causing minor damage. The suspect was in transported to Central Station where he was held for the next session of 6th District Court. The suspect was charged with simple assault, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct. Now, in addition to those charges, the suspect was advised in his cell block that if he did not give police his personal information, he could face a potential charge of obstruction, to which the suspect stated he did not care.
You might wonder why I wouldn't give the police officer my name. You might think that I had something to hide, or maybe I was even committing a crime. You might even say that I don't respect the police. But the questions I have, why does this not happen in predominantly white neighborhoods? If I was white, would the police officer do a U-turn to come ask me my name? But he just put his hands on me without giving me any reason. I'm not supposed to see them, the ghosts. But they peek at me through floating fragments of dimensions and I can see them like I'm not supposed to notice red-tailed hawks perched upon highway lampposts in the form of Sankofa. Like the message doesn't exist. Like my next move won't matter. Like my America is not killing black boys and letting white men walk away with murder. Like blue uniforms flashing 4th of July and rearview mirror is not a profile. Like race is not a factor when white men capitulate to the urge to create ghosts out of black boys. Like anyone who speaks about beings other than God or angels is crazy. Like it's not crazy to make angels out of black boys. Like calling white men devils is racist. Like race is not a factor in the murder trial because all black boys dream of one day flying like angels. Like it's my fault. I can see ghosts like red-tailed hawks perched upon highway lampposts in the form of Sankofa. Like I know my next move matters when America 4th of July in rear view mirror. Like I know not all white men are devils, just the ones making angels out of black boys and walking away with murder. Like I know the will to make angels out of black boys is crazy. Like I'm not supposed to relay the message. Like the message doesn't exist. Like I'm not all shattered hero or broken Haru. No Jonah, just Geppetto in the belly of the ghetto. Like ghosts of murdered black boys peeking at Grio through floating fractions of shattered dimensions. Like a mirror shattered and scattered across air. Like I know my the shattered and scattered across air. Like I'm not all broken hero or shattered Haru, just Jonah and Geppetto in the belly of the ghetto. Like ghosts of murdered black boys peeking at Grio through floating fractions of shattered dimensions. Grio like poets who should be more like prophets. Like Jonah, not Geppetto in the belly of the ghetto, but prophets see prophets and the message is distorted. Shattered like pieces of broken mirrors, scattered through air, shattered ghosts of broken toys, wanting to be real boys. The ghosts, they speak to me, missing flying on bikes like angels, to mother's kisses, buttermilk biscuits, and after-school dances. Ghosts speak to me, bragging and flying like angels, and b-ball pickup and puppy love machismo. Ghosts toss soul and universe to magic penny wish on me to become a man, not a boy with dreams of flying, shattered, like I could be them, like my next move matters, like I'm not supposed to see the message God graffitied in white cloud and blue sky and red-tailed hawk perched upon highway lamppost in the form of Sankofa. That white men with the urge to create ghosts make black bodies fly like angels. Warning, my next move matters. Because America is flashing 4th of July in rear view mirror, eyes full of ghosts. Life is unobtainable for black boys, better born.
Angels.
Grab a drink, use the restroom. We hope you'll stay. They'll be right back out in just a few minutes.